Something is buried beneath the sands of Saqqara. Granite boxes, over 100 tons each, cut to tolerances rivaling modern machines. Something was pulled from the floor of the Aegean. 30 interlocking gears that predicted eclipses 2,000 years ago. And in Delhi, an iron column has defied rust for 1,600 years. 7 impossible ancient discoveries that science still cannot reconcile. And the deeper you look, the stranger the evidence becomes. A single block of Aswan granite, weighing over 100 tons, waits in the gloom beneath Saqqara. Each sarcophagus is cut with precision, so the gaps along its edges measure less than a millimeter, tighter than the width of a thumbnail. Tool marks run in straight, unwavering lines, some barely visible to the naked eye. Under photogrammetry, these grooves measure just over a millimeter wide, echoing the fine kerfs left by copper saws and quartz sand. Experimental archaeologists have spent decades trying to replicate these cuts. With nothing but copper blades and patience, they managed to slice through granite, but progress crawled 1 millimeter at a time. Yet the question is not just how these boxes were carved. It is how they were moved. The quarries at Aswan lie nearly 900 kilometers to the south, across desert and river. Modern engineers have calculated the logistics, and a 100-ton mock block, dragged on sledges slicked with wet sand, required teams of hundreds to budget even a few meters. Wet sand, it turns out, cuts friction in half. In controlled trials, a sledge with a 100-ton load slid forward inch by inch as water was poured ahead of the runners. Once at the Nile, the block would be rolled onto a barge and floated downstream, the river itself becoming a highway for the impossible. An experimental archaeologist described it this way: "It is not magic. It is organization. It is thousands of hands, and the right moment, and the will to make stone move. Even with every calculation, the scale defies belief. The logistics are real. The achievement remains staggering. The evidence is there, but the mystery lingers. How did they make the impossible routine?" A corroded lump of bronze, barely recognizable, surfaced from a shipwreck off Antikythera in 1901. For decades, it seemed nothing more than a curiosity, until the first X-ray images revealed a dense tangle of gears hidden inside. Decades later, computed tomography would peel back the centuries, exposing a miniature world of cogs and dials. Specialists counted 30 distinct gears, some with teeth just 0.75 millimeters wide, no larger than a grain of sand. The tightest tolerances measured between 10 and 30 microns, rivaling the precision of modern watchmaking. One imaging expert described it as an ancient puzzle box, every layer revealing another secret. The largest gear train encodes the Metonic cycle, tracking the moon's phases over 19 years. Another sequence models the Saros cycle, predicting lunar and solar eclipses with a margin of error less than half a day, centuries before Galileo or Kepler. Gear ratios such as 53 to 64 and 15 to 31 were decoded, each one translating celestial rhythms into the slow, steady turn of a bronze pointer. This was not a simple calendar. It was a mechanical model of the heavens, built with a level of microengineering no one expected from the ancient world. The mechanism's fragments hint at more: missing gears, lost dials, perhaps even a planetary display. Its very existence asks a question that refuses to fade. Who built this machine, and what other knowledge has vanished beneath the waves of time? In the heart of Delhi, a 7-meter iron column rises from the earth, its surface dark and smooth despite 16 centuries of monsoon, heat, and dust. The iron pillar, weighing over 6 tons, stands exposed to the elements, yet shows barely a trace of rust. Modern steel, left unprotected, would crumble in a fraction of that time. Laboratory tests reveal the secret: a phosphorus-rich alloy with around 0.25% phosphorus forged into the iron itself. This is no accident of smelting. Ancient Indian metallurgists, working without blast furnaces, somehow produced a material that forms a passive film called miso white across its surface. Under scanning electron microscopes, this layer measures just a few microns thick, but it seals the iron beneath, halting corrosion almost entirely. Replicas made with ordinary iron fail these tests. Only when phosphorus matches the original does the protective film appear. For archaeometallurgists, the pillar represents a kind of material alchemy, a recipe lost to later generations, never described in surviving texts. One researcher described the process as an engineered accident guided by skill and intuition. The pillar's endurance raises unsettling questions. How did ancient smiths control their chemistry so precisely? And why was this knowledge not carried forward? The iron pillar stands as both artifact and riddle, a silent witness to a science that resists simple explanation. A Roman chalice buried for centuries reveals its secret only in light. The Lycurgus Cup glows a deep ruby red when lit from behind, but flashes green under reflected light, an impossible transformation for ancient glass. This color-shifting magic comes from something far smaller than the eye can see. Scientists using scanning electron microscopes discovered that the glass contains particles of gold and silver, each just 50 to 70 nanometers wide, less than 1,000th the width of a human hair. These nanoparticles scatter light in a way that modern physicists call the dichroic effect, a phenomenon now used in state-of-the-art optical sensors and security films. Under ultraviolet and visible light, spectrographs chart a dramatic shift. The cup absorbs and reflects different wavelengths depending on how it is illuminated, flipping from red to green in an instant. A conservator once described the effect as alchemy frozen in glass, an accident, or a forgotten recipe. No written record explains how Roman artisans achieved this nanoscopic precision. Was the color change a happy accident of alloyed dust? Or did ancient craftsmen master a process that modern science only recently named plasmonics? The Lycurgus Cup sits between worlds, beautiful, inexplicable, and quietly defiant of the boundaries we draw between ancient art and advanced material science. A clay jar, sealed for centuries, sits on a museum shelf in Baghdad. Its contents are simple: a copper tube, an iron rod, and traces of acidic residue cling to the ceramic walls. In the laboratory, a replica is filled with grape juice. Wires connect the rod and tube to a voltmeter. The needle trembles, then settles at just under half a volt, barely enough to light a modern LED, and far less than what powers even a pocket flashlight. The result is real, but the meaning is slippery. Some claim this is the world's first battery, a galvanic cell built 2,000 years before the invention of the voltmeter. Others point to the silence of ancient texts. No instructions, no mention of electricity, not a single image of wires or electroplated jewelry. The jars could have stored scrolls, sacred oils, or simply been part of a forgotten ritual. A skeptical scientist, after repeating the voltage test, put it bluntly: you can get a reading, but a reading isn't a purpose. The Baghdad Battery sits in a fog between physics and intent. It proves that a chemical reaction can make electricity, yet offers no evidence it was ever used that way. The gap between what can be measured and what can be known grows wider, leaving only questions. Did ancient hands harness this hidden force, or are we seeing patterns where none exist? A spiral stone, half buried in the dust of a remote plateau, draws attention for all the wrong reasons. Its ridges twist with uncanny symmetry, and online forums fill with diagrams comparing it to a turbine or an ancient machine part. But when geologists chip away a fragment for thin section analysis, the evidence tells a different story. Under polarized light, the grains align in patterns shaped by millennia of pressure, not by a craftsman's hand. No tool marks, no residue. The spiral's precision is the work of nature, water, and wind, not lost technology. One geologist puts it plainly: nature can carve forms that mimic design. Without context, a stone is just a stone. In a sealed tomb far from the desert, a cache of bronze blades lies undisturbed. Their edges still gleam, and the grain of the metal shows none of the coarse pitting that plagues most ancient weapons. Some claim these blades were forged with techniques lost to time, microforging, heat treatments that rival modern steel. Yet every metallurgist who studies ancient tools warns against jumping to conclusions. Burial in anoxic clay can halt corrosion for centuries, preserving a blade's edge as if it were new. Without published metallographic cross-sections, no one can prove these blades are anything more than well-preserved relics. The mystery is not in the metal, but in the missing data. What remains is a warning. The urge to see machinery or lost knowledge in every ambiguous find can lead us astray. Without context, without the careful work of geology and metallurgy, the line between artifact and accident blurs. Some puzzles endure not because they are unsolvable, but because the evidence is incomplete. History may not be what we were taught, and the past might be far more advanced than we ever imagined. Today, fragments of impossible craftsmanship still defy explanation. Each unanswered question redraws the line between myth and history, unsettling our sense of what once was. The evidence stands, silent, yet undeniable. History may not be what we were taught, and the past might be far more advanced than we ever imagined.